Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. We're here for the news this morning. We've got all sorts of news today. Loads of big news, actually. We've got Paul Pogba is valued at £8 or thereabouts. Mino Raiola, obviously Pogba's agent, has been sort of backtracking on his comments about Solskjaer, which we'll get to. And, of course, we've got Laurie Whitwell's comments last night about United making Jack Grealish their top target for the summer. Loads of stuff to get into. So, let's get into it. Like we said, first of all, then, the first thing on the docket this morning is, to me, the quite farcical and ludicrous news, quite frankly, that Real Madrid value Paul Pogba at no more than 50 million quid, which is, what, 60 million euros or so? There is an acceptance that United and the players' camp that it would be in everyone's interest for him to be sold this summer, and that's according to the Daily Mail, and a couple of others reporting on this as well. Let's just read that one more time, just so we are getting our ears, just making sure, we'll just warm our ears up a little bit, because this doesn't seem real, but let's say it again. Real Madrid value Paul Pogba at no more than £50 million. There is an acceptance at United and the players' camp that it would be in everyone's interests for him to be sold this summer. Let me know, first of all, in the comments, what you think to Paul Pogba's valuation from one of his main two suitors being 50 million quid. Let me know that in the comments. Personally, I think it's obviously ridiculous, but we'll go into a bit more detail on the actual quote before we go into our opinions, because we can save those. I think the two main points here are, obviously, the first one: Real Madrid value Pogba at no more than 50 million, and then this second quote, I think, is from the Mail of, there is an acceptance that United and the player camp that it would be in everyone's interest for him to be sold this summer. I think is purposely placed directly next to the fee quote to insinuate that United are happy to accept that fee. Whereas really, I think the Mail and all of us can see quite clearly from United's dealings in the past and the rumours and the wording that's come out in the past about Pogba, that we wouldn't be happy to accept anything less than at least what we paid for him, and hopefully more. I think they've purposely kind of slammed those two quotes that don't, because it doesn't say United are willing to sell him for that in the summer. It just says United and players' camp think it would be in everyone's interest to sell him in the summer. And I think they're purposely, like I said, trying to insinuate that United are like, oh yeah, 50 million, we'll take it. We want to sell him anyway. It's like it's some car boot sale where it's like, oh, how much is this? Oh, Pogba probably 100 million. I'll give you 50 for it. Yeah, all right then. Yeah, okay, fair enough. That sounds like a good deal. I don't think that's what's going on. I think this Real Madrid evaluation, whether it's true or not, we did see, didn't they offer something like 30 million and James Rodriguez last summer? Or there were rumours of a bid of that kind of size and style, which, depending on what you value James Rodriguez at this point, is somewhere around 50 million, let's be honest. The Saints in 100 million, maybe 80. 50 million, more like 120 to 100 minimum. The thing with Pogba is, I saw people commenting on Twitter, which I should never do really, because it's never good, is it? Saying that, oh, look how far he's fallen, look, this is where Madrid value. I don't think Madrid do value him at that. I think they're being disingenuous at best, and just... We've seen Real Madrid's president about 2 months ago saying, who is Paul Pogba? I've never heard of him. So I think, you know, the suggestion that everything Real Madrid say to the press is gospel and is, oh, well, 50 million, I guess beggars can't be choosers, let's sell him. He has got 2 years left on his contract. He's worth 25 million over 2 years in value to United. I think if the only teams that were after him were willing to spend only 50 million on him, I think there would be no hesitation at all to let him play the remainder of his contract out. I think that would just be the way that United did it. We just wouldn't sell him for that price, I'm sure. Laughable valuation, 50 million. But yeah, like I said, the people on Twitter and online saying, yeah, look how far he's fallen, injury prone, falling out with everyone. He's not the player he used to be. Well, even if you think that his status as a player has fallen, you're paying at least 70, 80 million for someone with the global stature and the marketing pull and the just the face of Paul Pogba alone for 5 years or 6 years is worth more than 50 million at a club. Just as a marketing tool, just as someone who can be there with tapping the badge with the shirt every time the new kit comes out every season. He's making that in kit money. So there is no way United would take 50 million for Paul Pogba. We saw United paying 47 plus a potential 25 million, I think, add-ons for Bruno Fernandes, a player who is only 1 year younger than Pogba, and whilst he's got better sort of statistics in the last 2 years than Pogba, isn't anywhere near the world star, hasn't won the trophies. Hasn't got the goals in the big leagues, and as much of a good player as Bruno Fernandes is, and I do think he's excellent from what we've seen so far, the idea that you would be paying more for Bruno Fernandes than you would for Paul Pogba is quite frankly laughable. Someone said, is 50 million the loan money? Yeah, we're paying 4 million to loan Igalo. That's like half of 50 million, basically, so there's no way. What age is Pogba? He's 26, he'll be 27 next month. So, he's still got at least 4 or 5 years, one big contract at the top level. Raiola takes 70 million off the value. I don't think he does. I think one thing you can't accuse him of is getting less money than his players are worth. I know people don't like working with him, but he certainly gets the best, or the most, should I say, for his players. Speaking of Raiola, let's move on to our second story then. And this is, like I said, about Raiola. He's been chatting, hasn't he? He's been really chatty. He's a real chatty Cathy, Mino Raiola. I don't know if anyone's ever told him that, but he likes to talk and no one will stop him talking. He's been saying, well, the initial story was him coming out saying that Solskjaer, basically, watch your back, mate, because I don't like you. You've said some stuff to Pogba over the summer that we don't want to bring up, but here it is. He's done one of those things where he's like, you know what? And I'm not even going to mention what he said over the summer. It's like, well, you've mentioned it, haven't you? And then Solskjaer came out and sort of quite strongly defended himself against Raiola. I think that was after the Chelsea game. He came out and said that. And then we've seen a sort of a semi-backtracking from Raiola. It seems he said yesterday that, oh, you know what, I didn't know United had a game. I wouldn't have tweeted that if I'd have known. Like, why didn't you know? Your biggest client has got a game. I know he's not playing, but United have got a game against Chelsea as well. It's not like we were playing, Ludogorets somewhere. We had a big Premier League fixture against Chelsea, and he's dropped back a bit. He said, "Oh, I'm gonna reach out and contact Solskjaer because I don't want things to be blown out of proportion." I think for once you've actually seen Raiola. The two options are he's either gone, you know what, I'll probably overstep the mark here and I might want to work with Man United again since they are the richest club in England and the third richest club in the world. I might like one of my players to go there one day, and I'm heading towards never being able to sell one of my players to Man United as things stand. I also think there's a chance that potentially Pogba has gone out and said to him, mate, you need to calm down here, I still play for this club. Maybe even someone like Jesse Lingard, who has managed to sort of stay out of all of this despite being represented by Raiola. Someone, I would guess, again, there's no inside knowledge on this, it's just a suggestion, that has said to Raiola, come on, like we need to not be doing this quite so aggressively. It felt a bit Donald Trumpy to me, that kind of, oh, fuck it, cut all ties, I don't care what I say anymore, Solskjaer, I hate you, you're going anyway, so I can say what I want. And I think Raiola maybe just thought for the first time in his life, actually I probably shouldn't have said that. Someone's saying there, Pogba should be sold not more than 100 million euros. What, we should try and sell him for less than that? I don't know. Get the most of the 80 million back for Pogba. Surely we should be getting more than that for him. I know he's not. He's been sort of inconsistent for United, but he's also been consistently United's best player. So the inconsistencies on his own personal game have maybe been there during United's ups and downs. He hasn't managed to take a team that's a bit crap and make them really good by himself, but he's been consistently United's best player since he's been at the club, which I think is about all the consistency you can ask for in a team and in a club that is wildly inconsistent from top to bottom. I don't think the inconsistency... I think he has been somewhat inconsistent, but when you're playing for a bad team, you can't be brilliant every week. Like, I think all the other mid-table teams, which I know United aren't quite mid-table, but their star players and their best players, everyone goes, oh, you know what? Imagine how good he'd be doing if he was at a better club. But when it's United, these are a great club and it's his fault we're bad. When clearly we saw the numbers of goals and assists he got last season and still didn't even get United's Player of the Year. I think that's a good illustration of how sort of undervalued he is by certain sections of the fan base and even maybe by the club. But yeah, it looks like Raiola is somewhat backtracking. Let me know what you think to that. Why do you think Raiola's come out and said, "Oh, I'll have a chat with Solskjaer," and "Oh, I didn't know they had a game. Sorry, lads." And he keeps saying this thing as well, like very schoolyard tactics of, "Oh, I don't know why Solskjaer talks about me all the time. I never talk about him." Like it's his ex-girlfriend or something. What she's been talking about? I never even talk about her. You were talking about him yesterday, mate. We all saw the quotes. You tweeted them. You can't pretend you didn't talk about someone. It was on Twitter. Everyone saw it. Oh, yeah, I did, didn't I? But I was drunk, so it don't count. It does count. Someone says, yeah, but he was on penalties. I can't believe people still use that as an argument. If you're taking penalties for your club, it's because you're the best penalty taker there, which is a compliment, which is a testament to your quality. It's not a bad thing. It doesn't matter that Matt Letizia got 45 of his goals on penalties. Alan Shearer got 45 of his goals on penalties. If you're the penalty taker, especially for a top club, that is a tick next to your name, not a cross. You don't lose those goals. It almost means more because you have to be a senior player to take penalties generally, and you have to be the best penalty taker. So the fact that he was taking them is a good thing, not a bad thing. Exactly. Someone said, ask Messi about penalties. They're not that easy. Pogba is not a good penalty taker. Well, he was the best available at the time, or he was deemed to be the best available choice at the time. Like I said, it's a mixture of things that go into a penalty taker. It's the person who is deemed to be most suited to take them mentally, physically, all those kinds of things. So I think if he was chosen or he showed himself to be the best option as a penalty taker, then you can't take those goals away from him. It certainly counts. It's like when people say, they've scored 50 goals, but 16 of them were from set pieces. Yeah, we're good at I know United aren't, but if a team's good at set pieces, that isn't a bad thing. That's a good thing. Anyway, finally then, our last story for today then. 12 minutes already. And Callum's desperate for the toilet, the producer today, so I'll try and make it snappy, mate. I'll try and make it slide right out, this story. So... our final story today, then, is Jack Grealish. Again, he's been someone we've been linked with a lot. I think the first thing to say is it does seem as though the interest is real. We've heard it from a few of our sources. And, of course, we've got Laurie Whitwell of The Athletic here as well saying... he says, indications are it would not influence... This is talking about United getting the Champions League or not. Indications are it would not influence United's chances of landing Jack Grealish, for example, a player well-placed sources describe as Solskjaer's number one target this summer. James Maddison has also featured highly in discussions, but the Leicester playmaker's expected new contract complicates matters. He then goes on to say that those close to Grealish are said to feel this summer may represent the right moment to depart his beloved Aston Villa in pursuit of reaching the highest level. The 24-year-old has firmly established himself as one of the... But the key bit here is Villa would be compelled to sell if relegated to the Championship to abide by financial fair play regulations. But if they stay up, Grealish's market value could easily be 80 million at least. What? 80 million at least. Oh, at least. Oh, it's going to be at least 80 million. What? 150 million? What do you mean at least? How can it be any more than 80 million? I like him as a player. He's a good player. But if it's 80 million at least, we start the bidding, like on Bargain Hunt. We'll start the bidding at 80 million. We've got 80 million on the phones, 90 million. What do you mean at least? I think the idea that Jack Grealish is worth at least 80 million and we'll go from there, and Paul Pogba is worth 50 million, tells you the current sort of media standing of United in terms of transfers and English players generally in terms of transfers, because it's just a ludicrous suggestion that Paul Pogba would be worth just more than half of Jack Grealish when he's only 2 years older than him, and he's won three Serie A titles. He's won a World Cup. He's the most recognisable midfielder in the world, probably top 5 most marketable footballers in the world. And Jack Grealish, I think he's got 9 goals and 6 assists this season, which is pretty good, especially for a team that's not great. But you know, he's a player that does seem to have some sort of X factor about him, Jack Grealish. I really like him as a player. I would like him at United, and I think if United have decided that they're going to do a kind of double-pronged replacement of Pogba in Fernandes and Grealish, I think he would be an excellent man to go in that midfield. But the suggestion that he's worth, like I said, almost double what Paul Pogba is worth, just from a marketing and shirt sales perspective alone, before you get to the fact that Paul Pogba got 15 goals and 15 assists for United last season, when in a generally horrific season for United. Jack Grealish is on course to get maybe 12 goals, 8 assists for Villa this season, and he's worth double. It just seems absolutely ridiculous. Someone saying Villa relegated would mean Grealish 50 million max. Maybe, but I know obviously they have to sell him, but I think they would still get a decent amount for him. But Jack's market value is starting at 30 million. I think if he's somewhere between 50, 60 million, that makes sense to me. You know, he's a good player, similar to what Bruno Fernandes was. Obviously, nowhere near the statistic goals and assists of Bruno Fernandes, but he's playing in a different league. Like I said, he is English, which does just add an extra few quid on, which we all know, and you can sniff, turn your nose up at it all you like, but that just is what it is. No way Grealish is staying another season to fight relegation or play in the Championship. Yeah, I think that I wouldn't be surprised if United did sign him. He works his socks off, literally. We've seen that around his ankles by the end of the game. He works his socks off. He needs a rest at times, but we ain't got another right winger. Oh, he's talking about Dan James. I thought you were talking about Jack Grealish there. Someone saying, yeah, around 50 million. Pogba is a World Cup winner and he's 50 million. Get out. Yeah. I mean, I think that 50 million story is the Daily Mail sort of licking their lips and rubbing their hands together and coming up with a bit of a silly one, to be honest, or at least hopefully. Give Villa 40 million and Jesse Lingard so he can play in the Championship where he belongs. Very rude. Also, do you think Mino Raiola, who, by the way, actually is another final point. Raiola was talking the other day saying how, I don't talk all the time, but of course I'm going to talk about my players and that kind of thing. He hasn't mentioned Jesse Lingard once. He talked about Paul Pogba all the time. He hasn't mentioned Jesse Lingard in the press once. So he is capable of not speaking about his clients when he thinks the time's right, when he thinks it wouldn't further his and their potential careers. So it's not as though he's some compulsive speaker that doesn't know what he's doing and can't help but talk about Paul Pogba because, well, I just talk. He hasn't spoken about Jesse Lingard, who is one of his clients. So I think this idea that Mino Raiola is just this sort of laughable, friendly, mouth merchant isn't a term, but I've made it one. Is slightly overstated by himself to get away with being more tactical with his players and his transfers than he likes to give people credit for. Someone said, my type of player. Who is my type of player? I don't know. Maybe Jack Grealish, but just get Sancho if you want a right winger. Well, Sancho, we'll talk about Sancho another time because I think United are interested in Sancho, but obviously we'll have to get through the Euros first. Right, that's going to be all for today. Thank you very much for joining us. Let me know in the comments as well whether you think 50 million is good value for Pogba, 80 million is good value for Grealish. Or if you think maybe those two fees should be flipped slightly, let me know in the comments. Like I said, thank you very much for joining me, and we'll be back in a little bit for the preview for the Bruges game tomorrow. So we'll see you then. See you in a bit.